Hey guys, what's up? MiataMods here. In this video I'm going to show you how you can replace your front sway bar end links. So, stay tuned. Welcome back to the MiataMods headquarters, guys. Yeah, I see you eyeballing that Skyline. Let's get that piece of garbage out of the way. That's a lot better. The other day I was cruising, minding my own business. I made a turn, and when I did that, out of nowhere I heard a loud pop. Now, as you guys know, these cars are known for making weird noises. So I didn't think much of it. But I noticed that the steering was a little funky. I could also hear a scraping noise coming from the front of the car whenever I drove over a speed bump. I stopped the car, checked the underside and noticed that one of my sway bar end links had snapped. You can still drive the car with a loose sway bar, but the grinding noise was getting really annoying, so the moment I got home, I took out my angle grinder and cut a piece of the broken end link so the grinding noise would stop. I got these in the mail, so today I can replace both front sway bar end links. Before I start, let me explain what a sway bar does. The bar connects the left side suspension and the right side suspension together. When making a hard turn, the outer side is compressed and the sway bar compresses the other side as well. This transfer of load reduces the roll or sway when you're making a turn, which results in more grip. Imagine that this is your sway bar and your end links are here and over there. Whenever this side of the car compresses, it pushes the sway bar up, and as you can see, the other side is pushed up as well. That way the load is transferred to the other side and the suspension can do its job better because both sides are affected. Now, replacing the sway bar end links seems like a pretty simple job, but it all depends on how easy it is to unbolt the sway bar end links. There are a few videos on YouTube on how to replace your sway bar, and they make it look like the end links are easy to remove. But let me tell you, I did the back a few years ago and man did I learn my lesson about basic hand tools and stock bolts. That's one of my oldest videos, by the way. Whoa, it's almost 5 years old.
Cannone.
Looks like I bent the sway bar a little bit. The comments are pretty funny too. Are you not allowed to use power tools or just don't? It would be easier if you did. Please stop making videos until you learn how to use tools. Never use the open end of a wrench if you can use a boxed end. This was just embarrassing to watch. Anyway, let's install those new end links. I would start by cleaning the nuts and bolts with a wire brush. Now spray some penetrating oil on the nuts and bolts. And let it sit for a few minutes. I also sprayed a lot of penetrating oil on them last night, so let's hope they will break loose. While you are waiting for the penetrating oil to do its magic, you can remove the front wheels. It's not necessary, but it might give you a lot more room to work with. Now, what are we looking at here? So, this is a long bolt, and on the other end you have a nut and a washer. Now get your socket wrench with a 14mm socket and a second boxed end wrench, like Rob said, also 14mm, and put it on the nut and bolt. Make sure the socket is completely over the bolt head so you don't strip the head of the bolt. Whoops. Lefty loosey. Sometimes it's really hard to give you guys the correct lighting. Alright, here we go. Watch out for your knuckles. Alright, as expected, this is on really tight. I'm going to try my breaker bar for some more leverage. Rock it back and forth so that you slowly break the bolt free. Let me adjust this wrench. I'll let this one sit on the lower control arm and make sure that's on the bolt, sorry, on the nut completely, so you don't strip the nut. I'll add a bit more penetrating oil. Wow, that's really stuck. See, I told you it's hard to remove. So this process can be frustrating, but be patient and always check if the socket and the wrench are fully on the head of the bolt and nut, so you don't strip it, and just take your time. Slowly loosen and fasten it, and eventually it will come loose. All right. It's moving, so I might be able to use my normal socket wrench right now. Tighten it a little bit and then it's also a good idea to check this side, because here are the threads of the bolt, and when you're loosening it, check and see if the threads are moving on this side. That's a good indication that you're not stripping the bolt. Okay. Now tighten it back down again and loosen it again. See? Then it gets easier and easier. And when it gets really tight, just 1 or 2 turns and then loosen it again. Slow process, but this is the best way to get rusted bolts and nuts free. Whew. There we go. All right, and now for the bottom part, I'm going to start with this 14mm socket and apply it on the head of the nut. It's really hard to get it on, so maybe I'm going to try it from the other side. Alright, so I'm going to add the boxed end wrench on this side, and this does fit over the head of the nut. I'll leave this here, and then a 14mm socket on this side, which is a bit of a weird angle, but I think I can break it loose that way. Let me get a hammer and get the head of the socket a bit further on the head of the bolt. Okay, here we go. Pay close attention to the bolt itself. If the socket is moving but the bolt is not moving, stop what you're doing. Okay, so now it's getting a little bit harder to twist it, so I'm going to twist it the other way around. Just tighten it back down a little bit. And then we'll start loosening it again. Let me get my socket wrench. Tighten it again and then loosen it again. Okay, let's see. If you use a light, you can see how much threads are left on this side. Almost none, so we're almost there. There we go. Whew. That's hot. Ah, come on. Yes! Got it! Alright, removing the bolts. Your options are as follows. 1. Start with plenty penetrating oil, preferably spread over multiple days. 2. Try to remove as much rust as possible with a wire brush. 3. Use a longer bar, like a breaker bar, for more leverage. Luckily that was all I needed, but if they're still stuck, 4. Get a impact gun. 5. Add a lot of heat, for instance with a propane torch. And if everything fails, your last resort is the angle grinder. Did you have to cut the bolt, but you don't have a replacement and this is your only car? No worries, you can still drive the car just fine without the end links installed, so get to the hardware store and get some new bolts and nuts. Alright, so why was this so hard? The problem is that the last few threads are really rusted, as you can see. And it sits on the car like so. Washer, and then the nut. And the problem is that, see, I can't even get it far enough to tighten it all the way. Well, the nut sits over here, right? And when you try to loosen it, the nut needs to get past all that rust that is inside the grooves of the threads. And that is what causing the problem that removing the nut is so hard. So, before you reinstall or reuse this bolt and nut, I would suggest to get a wire brush and really clean those threads so they are a bit more open, so the bolt or the nut can thread on easier. Alright, that looks a lot better. Now I would suggest to get some penetrating oil, spray it on that bolt, and then get the nut, twist it on there, and then twist it all the way. And it gets stuck right around here. Then you get your wrench. Okay. And then start twisting. Okay, so now I can move it. So I'm going to get my socket wrench and a 14mm socket. And then I'll start twisting it a bit more. And this way you're cleaning the threads of the bolt. Okay. Now add a little bit more penetrating oil. Okay, and now I can twist it off by hand, see? So that's a lot smoother. Okay, so now most of the rust is removed. And now you need some grease. This is copper grease, by the way. And then I'll add a bit to the bolt. And then I'm going to twist on the nut again. And that way it will spread nicely throughout the whole bolt. Still a bit stuck, but just try twisting it, loosening it and tightening it, and eventually it should get a lot smoother. And I'm doing this so I can reuse the bolt and it doesn't get stuck right away after reinstalling it. Okay, so this is running pretty smooth. Okay, going to add a bit more copper grease, and then this bolt is ready for installation. And then I'm going to do the same with the other bolt, and with both bolts done I can reinstall, or not reinstall, but install the new end link. Before you install the new end links, check the swing of the sway bar to see if it's working properly. The sway bar bushings can wear out, which makes the bar move around in the bushings, and that can cause rattles and make the whole setup less efficient, so make sure you check this. And mine is pretty solid. Alright, the new end link slides right into place, and I'm going to add the nut from the other side. So whenever I want to remove these again, I can reach the bolt from the back, and then this bar is not in the way. So on this side I'm going to add the washer and the nut, and don't tighten it all the way. And up here I'm going to add the bolt on this side, and then the washer and the nut on this side. Now you don't want to tighten them all the way, because you want to tighten the end links when there's a load on them. Alright, that's it. Put your wheels back on if you remove them, lower the car down to the ground, and don't forget to tighten your lug nuts. Before tightening the nuts and bolts of the sway bar end links, what I like to do is let the suspension settle to its normal position. So I'm going to drive my car out of my garage, make a few turns and then drive it back in. But first I'm going to wash my hands. Now we can further tighten the end link bolts and nuts. That's one side done. I wish all the low stance boys good luck with this job. Need an extension for that. Right, last bolt. That's it. Whew. Well, that's it guys. Job's done. I hope you've enjoyed the video and I'll catch you in the next one. Tot de volgende keer. Sway bar end link. So Bruh.
I'm getting too old for this.
Bruh.
Smash that like button. Subscribe to MiataMods. Subscribe.